Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Barkera's podcast. I'm your host, Elisa Van Dyke, and today I'm honored to be joined again by Liz Robles. So, Liz was on our last episode where we introduced her Cane Corso Rescue, and we began to dive into her reasoning for opening her rescue in 2005. And today we will just continue into that conversation as well as comparing it to what she's noticing today. Our goal is to just bring awareness to the adoption surrender cycle that has grown throughout the years, especially when it comes to the Cane Corso breed. And this is something that we hope to improve and prevent in groups like the Cane Corso Puppy Training Club mentioned in our first episode. But before I get too ahead of myself, Liz, welcome back. It is great to see you again.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure you have a lot of insight into the adoption surrender cycle when it comes to the Cane Corso breed. So just kind of diving right in, why don't we start by focusing on the presentation of the dogs in 2005? How would you describe the dogs you rescued in terms of just age, behavior, their traits? What were the common reasons for surrendering as well?
Right. So good question. In 2005, it's been a little bit, but in 2005, the breed was not as well known. Obviously, it was very much not known. The dogs that we were being contacted about were typically in the Northeast, kind of our key states, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio. Those were kind of the states. Similarities, 2 years age, 2 years old was typically kind of what they would range. Again, we didn't have a lot of background on many of these dogs, but definitely adolescence is kind of where we were seeing them being surrendered. Behavior-wise, guardians, they're up at the front of the fence or the kennel, barking, growling, presenting themselves as guardians and not knowing where they were and where their people were.
Yeah, and it's sad to hear that as well, because we mentioned this in the first episode, actually, their guardian-like tendencies, which so many people are just unaware of when they go into adopting the Cane Corso breed. Of course, taking in these dogs then is only half the battle. You also need volunteers and fosters to help take care of them. And then comes the application process in order to find a good home for that successful readoption. And all of this just requires that education again and responsibility and those requirements, which I think we can dive into for an upcoming episode. But going back just a little bit, what would you say the ratio was roughly? I know going back to 2005, those stats are hard, but what would you say roughly an estimate there was for interested applicants to volunteers? And did you have a lot of help or people wanting to adopt?
Right. So in 2005, we had a small group, our small little community. We were very tight knit, like we are now. But again, it was more concentrated in that New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio area. And there was a small group of us, I'd say like about 8 to 10 of us that really just all worked together on the same, the dogs coming out of the same shelters typically. So as far as adopters, we did have mostly people from at that time, the club that was in existence. We had people from the club, offering to foster and to adopt, and they would refer people over, but it was very small. So we would use the same foster families pretty much over and over, same transporters over and over, so we were small, tight knit, but we worked really hard.
Yeah, and it got the job done. It's great hearing the community aspect. I think that's just something that makes the rescue so unique and so special. And what did it look like to help these dogs? How did you accommodate them, especially with their size and needing to really educate people along the way? How many were you able to house at a time back then too?
Right. So back then, again, we probably only had around 8 really active fosters. And again, you have to remember they had other dogs. And so we had to be a little bit, we don't like to put, we don't want to bombard or have one foster having, 4 or 5, right? Cane Corsos, because then it's one person, even though we're all a community, we're helping each other. But so we would spread them out. But it was pretty much the same group, and they weren't in foster care as long because we just didn't. We didn't have that. We couldn't have the dogs in foster care as long as we do now. But they would get in there and then they would get adopted. So they were definitely in foster homes less time in 2005 in that time period, and then they would go home sooner in 2005. So,
Of course, having the resources be a little restrained just starting out, I can understand not having them in those foster homes as long before they get adopted. But again, it's just great having that community, being able to start out the way you did. And thinking today, kind of along similar lines, how would you describe the presentation of your rescues and what are kind of the trends and current reasons for surrendering?
right. So similarities, of course, also differences, as you know, comparing the years, but definitely would say age wise, again, it's that adolescence, it's teenager age, that 2 to 4 is very, very common, even, up into, well, I would say a big difference is that in 2005, we weren't getting seniors, right? So we really didn't see very many senior Cane Corsos. I can't even think of one really right now off the top of my head, but now we're getting obviously seniors as well. Reasons for surrendering, if we do know, if they're sheltered, sometimes we don't know, right? But if we do know reasons, most common, landlord issues. I hear a lot of times they just got too big. That's a common thing we hear. Don't have the time, moving. So, we have more reasons today, but I also wonder if that's because we tend to get more information now because we're just, we've learned over the years and we've been able to kind of look back. Whereas in 2005 and in those earlier years, the shelter didn't necessarily, they weren't able to ask those questions, or the dogs are strays, or, we just couldn't find out.
Yeah, it's interesting being able to kind of like almost have that data and seeing like, okay, you are getting more surrenders now, especially with the growing popularity and having more owner surrenders and not necessarily pulling from the shelters. And it's sad too, seeing that 2 to 4 age, that tends to be where the adoption surrender cycle really kicks off and starts. And kind of going again back to comparison's sake, what would you say the rough estimate is now for surrenders compared to the prospective owners or volunteers? Has your adoption rate and the success gone up, down, stayed the same?
Absolutely. So we have, definitely we're seeing more success, right? We're bigger, the community's growing. And we are, we're educating each other, right? And I feel like people they're seeking out education, trying to educate themselves on the breed. Definitely the numbers of surrenders have gone way up, but also the number of people interested in helping has gone up. So the community has grown. And, I would say number wise, so right now we don't typically have more than about 40 to 50 Cane Corsos at one time within the program. Obviously there's overlap. So some go home, we bring some more in. As far as foster homes, we have several families that have multiple foster dogs. For instance, my family fosters many Cane Corsos at one time. So, we have some families that can foster more, but definitely much bigger now, bigger community, which is great, but more dogs, right?
I love hearing just how tight knit your community is, how you're able to accommodate all of these surrenders. And in a way, it's quite startling to hear that you have 40 to 50 at a time. Would you say that the demand has been more overwhelming? Have you been wanting to rescue more than 40 to 50? Has there been that demand still, despite having such a large group of foster homes and rescues at a time?
Absolutely. I mean, the demand is significant, so we have, like on the website, we get surrenders, private owner surrenders, and those just never stop. I mean, we, already this morning I was seeing them come in, so we get multiple surrenders a day. And then also the shelters, and typically we have our people that contact us from the shelters because they have a relationship with us. And so they reach out. So we've got the shelter surrenders, we've got the private owner surrenders that are reaching out. But, there again, we also have applications coming in every day. And I think, the trend, people being on social media more and everything, obviously we have that's been very helpful. and helping educate and helping get the word out and helping, people find us. So we also have more homes, more adopters.
Yeah, looking at just the numbers and the reasoning, it is clear the strides you have made as an organization in reaching your mission and serving your cause. Now, of course, this has come with a lot of trial and error, finding the right homes, educating new owners about the breed. It's a lot. But with the rescue comes also the responsibility to learn about the specific dog and their background. And I would kind of just love to talk about the adoption process in more depth next with you, just kind of the screening of applicants, knowing if someone is a good fit for the Cane Corso, and how people can just maybe even help out your organization more, either through fostering or just support. But for now, what is something that you would like to bring light to just get more support on? Essentially, what are your biggest roadblocks for success and how can we fix those?
Well, I think education is key, so we really work hard. Obviously, I'm not, I'm not a trainer. I'm not, I guess I'm a professional at this rescue. I know the rescue and I know how it works and how we do things, but, finding professionals that we need within the group, if we need to reach out, that's the biggest thing. We need people, we need owners, we need people who have trained their Cane Corsos. We need to hear what they've been through, and the more that you hear about that, the more we become educated, right? And I think that's really important, very, very important. I think also having people that are willing to be patient and, listen to the dog, watch the dog, learn from the dog, those kinds of things, and then share all that with the rest of the community, because that's just how we all learn. So we absolutely just need to grow our community and get definitely more fosters. That's a big one. And then also more, adopters, but we really need to work to help them get the information they need and educate them on the things they need to know, right? To own this dog, this breed.
I agree. I think that that is something that's definitely overlooked by many, how pivotal the foster home is in the dog's life and just the need for it in order to keep admirable rescues like the one you have alive. And I also think that having that community, it's so special. And it's something that can really help just you and your own dog's journey, or having a dog like the Cane Corso who's been surrendered so often, be able to have just a loving and fulfilling life. And I think joining groups like the Corso Puppy Training Club to seek education, ask for advice, be proactive in their care is also just really pivotal to prevent ending up as a surrender yourself. So whether someone can help by being a foster or adopting through your rescue or just being a part of the larger movement of proactive education, I mean, I like to think truly that the Cane Corsos are in good hands with all of the passionate individuals that are dedicated to helping this breed right now.
Absolutely, yeah. For sure. You said it very well.
Well, Liz, thank you so much again for joining us just for another episode on Barkera's podcast. I've learned so much by reflecting with you throughout the years and just in highlighting the presentations of surrendered Cane Corsos and their reasoning, the numbers, and knowing that a lot of it just comes down to education and preparation on the owner's part for successful adoptions or just to prevent surrenders in the first place. And knowing that your rescue, along with the Corso Puppy Training Club and Barkera, are working towards that is just really heartwarming. And I would think that it'd be a great place to dive into next, just a more detailed discussion of the owner's role and how people can continue to help.
Absolutely. I would love that. Yes.
Yes, perfect. I can't wait. And of course, if you all want to continue to support Liz before our next episode, make sure to head into her over to our website at canecorsorescue.org, where you will also find the links to her other social media platforms. And you can also support them through our Barkera store at barkerashop.com, where there is Cane Corso apparel for both people and dogs, all of which, once purchased, contributes to our rescue fund. And you can also find more educational resources regarding the Cane Corso with the Facebook group at Cane Corso Puppy Training Club of America. So definitely check those out. Share those links along with this episode to just your fellow dog owners and enthusiasts. And we will see you all again for our next episode to talk about our role in this cycle. Thank you again, Liz, for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. I really enjoy it and look forward to the next one.